Who are the best defenders in FPL? This is the next episode in the series I'm doing across the international break, where we go in depth with all the stats to compare players in each position to find out which ones are best. When talking about defenders then, it of course makes sense to look at the teams that have kept the most clean sheets this season. We've got 2 teams on 4 out of obviously the 8 games that have been played so far. Crystal Palace and Arsenal. Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, Man City and Fulham have all kept 3. Man United, Forest and Aston Villa have all kept 2. You know, it's kind of a small sample size. So, I mean, the maximum clean sheets is 4. So there's not a whole lot between these teams. So it's important to go in depth and to look at a bit more stats in terms of the actual goals that these teams have conceded and their expected goals conceded as well. And we have that here. So the teams that have conceded the fewest goals are Man City and Arsenal. And looking at the expected goals conceded, Man City are the lowest across the whole league with 5.48. Arsenal, they've conceded slightly fewer goals than they were expected to, 7.85 expected goals conceded. Chelsea and Crystal Palace both with 7 goals conceded. Obviously, Crystal Palace massively outperforming their underlying numbers there. That suggests that potentially the goalkeeper is performing really well. Similarly with Spurs and Liverpool, Vicario has actually been one of the best keepers in the league this season. And obviously Alisson, we know he's probably the best goalkeeper in the world. So both of those guys are allowing their teams to overperform. But yeah, you can see the goals conceded stats for all of them there. Newcastle and Forest. Newcastle slightly underperforming their underlying stats. So they've expected to concede 7.64 goals. They've actually conceded 9. And Forest, well, they're there or thereabouts. Another thing to look at when comparing defenders is, of course, their assists, right? We pick defenders not only for their clean sheets, but for their potential to get attacking returns as well. So what I've done here is I've pulled off the best defenders so far this season for assists. Top of the tree is Kieran Trippier. He's got 5 assists with an expected assists of 2.5. Just one thing to say on these expected assists across all of the defenders, really. A lot of these guys are outperforming their stats. So you can see here, Kieran Trippier's assists are actually double the expected assist numbers that he's put up. Kufal's over 4 times. Dean's tripled it. You know, so there's a consistent overperformance of the expected data there. So I don't know whether that's just the norm for defenders or whether this season in particular, a lot of them are outperforming their stats. And at some point, we should expect that to revert to the norm. Kufal, as I said, has got 4 assists. He's in second, but only 0.9 expected assists. So yes, whilst he might have been getting the assists so far this season, the underlying numbers suggest that he's not actually been that creative. So question is, you know, is he a viable option from that perspective? I think that's probably for you to decide, to be honest. Luca Dean and Estupinian both on 3 assists. Estupinian's underlying numbers a little bit better. We all know, to be honest, how good he is going forward. Lamptey's sitting there on 2 assists from 0.1 expected assists. Can't quite remember how those assists came about, but I imagine they were passes to other players who then ran on to score, to be honest, if it's that low. Malo Gusto's got a couple. Van Dijk, Aurier, Pedro Porro and Udogie from Spurs. They've all got 2 as well. Now, this is one of my favourite statistics. I'm a bit of a statistics man, I'm a bit of a numbers man, so these are the kind of things I look at when picking players. What I've done here is I've ranked all the defenders in the league by expected goal involvement and picked out the best ones. Matty Cash is number 1, so he's been expected so far this season to be involved in basically 4 goals, and he's got 0.51 expected returns per 90. So every game he's, you know, got a 50% chance of returning, basically, based on the 8 games that he's played so far. Kieran Trippier, 0.33 expected returns per 90. So, you know, if you extrapolate that, that's like a 30% chance of a return each game. 2.53 expected goal involvements in total. Estupinian and Dunk, actually, quite surprisingly, close on the expected goal involvement for Brighton. Estupinian beating him, though, for expected returns per 90. Obviously, he's played less minutes than Dunk has, so extrapolated over the whole thing, he's got slightly higher expected returns per 90. Chilwell, what can I say about Chilwell? You know, the numbers, underlying numbers are there, 0.57 expected returns per 90, so he's even better than basically Matty Cash, who's been playing as a right winger for Aston Villa. So when Chilwell comes back fit, and to be honest, it kind of justifies him as a pick looking at these stats. I don't think anyone was wrong to expect him to do really well when they picked him in their FPL team. It just didn't come off, basically. One player I do find quite interesting is Ayer of Brentford. He's only played a few games so far this season, basically following on for the Rico Henry injury, but he's got 2 expected goal involvements and the highest expected returns per 90 of a defender that's played more than a couple of games in the Prem so far, 0.61. Disasi's actually putting up some decent goal threat for Chelsea. Doty, I think that's how you pronounce it, he's one of the best defenders in the league for expected, attacking output, and he's playing for Luton, so unfortunately he's 4.5 million. I reckon if he was 4 million, he'd probably be the best 4 million defender in the game, but unfortunately I just don't think you can pick him above the players above him. And then finally, we've got Pedro Porro. So based on all that then, who actually comes out on top in terms of points? This is obviously the simplest measure, and you can just go on the FPL game to find this out yourself. Anderson, interestingly, tops the list for Crystal Palace. He's pulled up a few goals, and of course Crystal Palace, the top team, joint with Arsenal for clean sheets. Kieran Trippier, Newcastle, obviously very strong defensively, and he's done really well from an attacking perspective. He's closely following Anderson on 49 points. White and Saliba, again, Arsenal, one of the top defences in the league. White with a couple more attacking returns than Saliba. Cash, Aston Villa, not a fantastic defence, but his attacking output has been so good, so he sits on 36 points. Romero's actually returned a couple of goals so far this season, and Tottenham, sort of mid-table in terms of, well, not mid-table in terms of what we showed, but obviously one of the best defences in the league. And Gahey of Crystal Palace, he's not got a great deal of goal threat, which is why the points difference is so big between him and Anderson. However, he's played all the games and of course kept all the clean sheets that Crystal Palace have. So just thought I'd finish the video with a few recommendations from looking at all these stats myself. First one being Gabriel of Arsenal. Now, he definitely is the cheapest starting Arsenal defender, and I'd suggest with how well they've been playing in defence recently and with Timber obviously being injured long term, he looks to have nailed his spot in that Arsenal team again. Last season, it's not happened this season. You can see there the underlying numbers in terms of attacking returns are pretty terrible, to be honest. Barely even had a sniff this season, but last season he had the highest expected goals amongst all defenders in the Premier League last season. So he does have the goal threat there. He's just not been really showing that this season. I'd also say, just based on the numbers, since they've been playing Raya and Gabriel, Arsenal are the best defence in the league. And across the 8-game sample we've got, you've seen those stats basically. They are still one of the top defences in the league. Of course, not every player is going to be 100% good things. As I said, yes, last season he had the highest XG amongst defenders, but this season he's not really offering any attacking threat. The second guy is probably my favourite defensive pick, certainly over the next 3 or 4 weeks basically. Cash is the #1 defender, as we saw in the league, for expected goal involvement. Villa have got a really nice fixture run, West Ham, Luton, Forest, Fulham, some of the best fixtures you could possibly ask for. And he's been basically playing as a right winger for Villa in a 4-3-3. It's been, playing as a right winger, and he's a defender. What more can you want? Obviously, Villa are not one of the best defences in the league, and they are conceding goals. Cash has played all 8 games so far this season, and they've only kept 2 clean sheets, so you can't say Villa are the strongest defence. However, with the fixtures they've got coming up, you've got to think some clean sheets are likely, and the fact that he's putting up 3 expected goals and basically 1 expected assist so far, he's going to get some attacking returns. And the final defender I wanted to talk about, just trying to cover one at each sort of different price point really. Gahey, 4.5 million, I think is the best cheap defender in the game at the moment. Palace are definitely emerging as one of the best defences in the league so far, and I think thinking into how they're going to have to play over the next 6 or so weeks while Eze is injured with his hamstring injury, and of course they don't have Elise either, they're not really going to have much goal threat. And I think Palace are just going to have to rely on being really, really solid defensively in order to get results. So I think Hodgson is going to put even more defensive priority on that Crystal Palace team. So you would expect them to keep some more clean sheets. 9 and 10, they're not fantastic fixtures, don't get me wrong. Newcastle away and Spurs at home are not fantastic. You'd like to think they're at 4.5 million. At that price, you'd be happy to bench him realistically and then play him from game week 11 when they actually have a really nice fixture run. Similar story to Gabriel, really. Yes, they're emerging as one of the best defences in the league, but in reality, he's not really putting up any kind of attacking numbers. But at 4.5 million, I think clean sheets is all you want. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know what you think in the comments about the stats and the data and the players that I've recommended. I'll be interested to know how this video is received. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, of course, please leave me a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there. And I'll catch you in my next video, which of course will be talking about midfielders.